Hi again then guys, and welcome to episode 14, which is incidentally also probably going to be the final episode of High Rollers for Gran Turismo 6. Now I may make a new High Rollers episode or even a new series when Gran Turismo 7 comes out, dependent on what vehicles may fall into this category or how the schedule of the channel is running, etc, etc. But for now, this is going to be the final episode. Now, we are due some extra, what would probably be High Rollers vehicles to be added to Gran Turismo at some point. Vehicles which have received the Gran Turismo award at various events such as Pebble Beach, but that have not been added to the game yet. Now, some of them have been, and they have been reviewed in this series, but there are some vehicles which have received the award which have not been added yet, notably the Connaught C4R race car, which is an American racing car, looks kind of like a Cobra. Also a classic Aston Martin race car, I can't recall which one, it may be the DBR3 or the DBR1, something like that, which would probably be a very expensive car if it were added to the game. I'm inclined to think that Polyphony's probably not going to be releasing those cars until GT7 anyway, so we'll have to see. So for now, this is pretty much the last episode of the series. Now, as I said in my last Q&A, when this series ends, which is today, the rest of the series for the week, next week, will move back a day, so tomorrow's series will be today next week, and then I will add the first episode of a new series on the last day of next week. That'll make more sense when it gets here. So for now, in this final episode, we're featuring the last of our High Rollers, the last of the 20 million credit classics. It is, of course, Ferrari's 1967 330 P4 race car. One of the most beautiful classics ever made, one of the most valuable classics ever made, both in the game and in real life, and a widely loved classic, which really is iconic, from Ferrari. It's the car which ultimately the GT40 was designed to beat, and which the GT40 did beat in the Le Mans. So what does this car have to offer for 20 million credits? Well, it's a premium model, which is pretty good, has a fully detailed interior. As far as power, it's got a 4-litre engine, which is turbocharged when you upgrade it. It's even lighter than you might think. Looking at the car, you might guess that it weighs maybe 850, 900 kilos, something like that. It actually weighs 792, which is very impressive. That means it's around 200 kilos lighter than the GT40, which is a big difference in racing territory. It also produces a very decent 684 horsepower, not quite as high as the GT40, but still very high. Only around 20 horsepower less, just under. It also puts out, again, a respectable 511 pound-feet of torque, which I say that's respectable because Ferraris and Italian engines in general aren't generally known for their torque, so that's a pretty decent amount of torque. We already mentioned the low weight, and thanks to that ultra-low weight combined with the very decent power, this actually has one of the best power-to-weight ratios of this series, at a whopping 864 horsepower per tonne. The PP, when fully tuned, is a pretty high for a classic 641, and although I wouldn't necessarily recommend racing it at that level against equivalent vehicles from other manufacturers, because at the end of the day you can get the Toyota TS30 Hybrid at that level and vehicles even higher than that, so I wouldn't really recommend trying to take those cars on in this car, although you technically could with the right driver. But at, say, the 600 or 575 or, say, 620 maybe PP level, this car has more of a good chance of doing well. And one of the great things about the P4 all-round is just that, its all-round ability. The GT40 is a very good car, but if you compare it to this Ferrari, the Ferrari, I hate to say it because I'm more of a fan of the GT40, but this car's pretty much better in every way. It's lighter. It's not quite as powerful, so it's not better in that way, but it's lighter. It's a premium. It has a higher top speed. the acceleration pretty much breaks even, and the handling is better. So apart from handling, or apart from power I should say, this is pretty much better in most ways that matter than the GT40. Now, that said, I still prefer the GT40, but this car is very, very good. And if you're a fan of Ferrari and you're wondering about buying this car, well, you're probably not wondering about buying it. If you're a fan, you're already planning to, but I'm happy to say you won't be disappointed. It's very, very good. The handling is among the best of any classic car in the game. It's very well balanced. It actually feels heavier than it is, but in a good way. The handling has a nice weight to it. It feels very stable, very dependable. The car doesn't feel too light, as some classics can. It feels very forgiving, especially compared to a GT40, which is a pretty slippery car until you get used to it, and even then it can be. So overall, it's a very good deal, this car. It looks fantastic. It's extremely fast. The top speed is around 250 miles per hour with a low downforce setting. Of course, it doesn't have NOS, so again, very impressive top speed, that considered. Acceleration is very good, at least on par with the GT40 or the XJ13. And overall, I would say it's possibly the best handling car of the 20 million credit cars. I think the XJ13 could give it a pretty good run for its money, but overall, I'd say this car is a little bit better. So if you're a Ferrari fan, as I already said, you'll definitely love it. But even if you're not, like, I'm not the biggest of Ferrari fans, but I still like this car a lot. And it's actually one of the most competitive high roller cars in the game. So, if you're looking to either start or complete an expensive collection of cars, this is a good starting or end point to both the series and also a collection. So, thanks for joining me for this series. As I said, we may see another episode. Highly unlikely, I would have said. So, that's it for this episode. And I'll see you guys next time. And as always, thanks for watching.